doesn't matter. Okay. All right. So, Summer, I would love for you to just tell me what life was like before you and I met. Give me a glimpse into that world.
Um, so pretty bad, pretty rough. Just like I didn't feel like I had a relationship with my mom. And I feel like I was very disconnected, like definitely living the two different lives kind of thing. And I didn't want to share like experiences I was going through with her because I didn't trust her with that information. And I was like, we're just going to get in a fight about it, or she's going to get mad at me or be disappointed in me. Um, because I was living away from home, like I had all these responsibilities by myself. And so that made me feel like, okay, that information is for me, not my mom, which now I look at that and I'm like, wow, uh, that's kind of stupid. But yeah, it was just really down. I was down on myself. I didn't have like a sense of who I was or what my purpose was. Um, had issues with like, especially body image was bad. I had like the wrong group of friends for sure. And that kind of led me into like a lot of things that weren't what I wanted for myself. So yeah, just no self-love and like confidence was really, really low. Um, so yeah, just really bad overall.
You have a really interesting, you don't have the normal story, right? So, how old were you when you moved out and why did you move out?
I was 15 when I moved away from home, and I moved out to get better training for ballet. So I moved to Los Angeles, California. Um, what year was that? I don't even know. But I was 15, very young, not ready at all, but I thought I was. So yeah, at that point, I was living in a dorm with older students. So I was the youngest there. Everyone else was about like 16, 18 kind of thing. So I think, yeah, that's really just where I got disconnected with my family and everything because I was trying to figure out things like for myself. So
Okay, and then when I met your mom and then later met you, you guys were living in New York City in a tiny little place. So why don't you set the scene a little bit on that and tell me what life was like when you were living in New York?
yeah, so the first year I was in New York, I was living in the dorms alone without my parents. And then I really did not like the dorms there because the girls were just super catty and there was so much drama. And I wanted to focus more on ballet. And my mom kind of forced me out of the dorms to live in an apartment with her, which was a box. We had one room. We slept in the same bed. Sometimes she would sleep on the pull-out couch. The kitchen was like, I don't even know. It's very, very tiny. So there was no personal space. And that didn't go so well because we didn't have a connected relationship. So
How
yeah.
did that is I kind of from my perspective felt like living in that one room, tiny little place really magnified what was wrong with your relationship. So tell me just a little bit about what it was like to live with your mom after a couple of years of not living with your mom.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like weird. Like there was this constant awkward tension to where we could sense like that I wasn't telling her things and that she kind of felt why am I here? Um and it was just awkward is the word for that. I would go to class and then come home, do my online school, and she would just kind of sit there and then be like, "What do you want for dinner?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like it was just very bland and definitely magnified like the problems in our relationship. But it seemed like every time we tried to work parts of that out or she tried to get things out of me, it would just result in a fight because we didn't know how to like break things down.
I when I met you, I got the feeling that you were carrying a lot of guilt and shame. Like what was it about the way that you were living and that was that brought you so much guilt?
I think I was just so afraid of my like parents being disappointed in me and like I know that they've paid all this money and let me live places by myself and all the tuition and it's just so much and they've been so like supportive of my dreams, but I took that as like, okay, I have to stay on my A game. Like they can't know I went off the rails or like did something or yeah, it was just like the feeling that I was going to be like disapproved or like disowned by my parents if they knew like bad things that I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And you were in New York to pursue your dream. So tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about this dream and like, did you ever lose sight of that?
I definitely lost sight of it, especially in that second year in New York. I didn't really like living there in general. It just felt really like congested and kind of stressful. But yeah, professional ballerina is my goal. It's my dream, and it's definitely more today than it was 2 years ago, which is good. But I lost sight of it because I just didn't have any confidence, and this school just really like bogged that down. And I think all the guilt that I was carrying from not sharing things with my parents and being so secretive was like really getting to me, and I just didn't even like love ballet anymore because I think I had too much on my mind to like work out.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Mhm.
Okay, so you and I met. I want you, if you can, to think about like where you were at emotionally. And that's my first question, like around when you and I met. And then my second question is, what did you think? Your mom made this decision for you, or were you part of the decision to work with a coach? Kind of where were you at then?
Yeah, I was definitely like, I think at that point I wanted help because I knew that like this is not how I'm supposed to be living. And I was so kind of sad that I have almost lost this love for an art form that I have loved my whole entire life and is my life. So I think when we first met, I was actually definitely part of the decision. She offered this option to me, and I had seen a couple of therapists before, but that just didn't work because I felt like it was more surface level, and I didn't feel like the problem was going to get solved. It would take years and years and years. Um, so yeah, I was part of the decision, and I was like, okay, I'll do the first phone call. Like, I'll see how this goes. It was like this Jamie girl, like, let's see. So I was kind of like, because we didn't have a good relationship, I don't want to listen to her at that point, but I think I was definitely part of the decision, especially after our both of our first phone calls. And I was like, okay, this actually feels right, and like I can get somewhere. So emotionally, probably, oh, that's hard. I don't know. A little overwhelmed, I think, but also like nervous for sure, because I was scared to. At that point, I wasn't open at all, so I was so scared to like feel comfortable sharing things. But that all changed.
Okay, good job. And you mentioned therapy. Do you mind just saying for you, like a tiny bit more about what didn't work about therapy?
Yeah, I think I had seen like 3 therapists before that, and some of them were with like me and my mom, and that's where things got like really bad. They would ask me like questions, "What's life at home like? Like, where did you grow up?" Um, I don't know, just what's your relationship with your dad, with your sister? And like those are good questions, but then I would be like, "Good," and they would move on instead of trying to be like what we do and work things through and like find the roots of the problem and work on them. It was like answer this question and move on. And I just felt like it wasn't productive. Um, and in some ways, I felt like, okay, I'm not comfortable sharing things with this lady that's like staring at me and writing my life down in a notebook. So, yeah, it was just super surface level, and it just didn't make me want to go.
Okay, so tell me about how you felt in the program, and let's talk about when you started to notice things changing or shifting. And there are bumps along the way, right? Like nobody
Yeah.
has a straight journey. But like, just talk to me about like what the process was like for you.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, at that point, I was so ready to like make changes. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens if I do what she said and put my like full foot forward, 100%, like let's go for it. And I think I really started to notice a difference within the first like month. like at towards, in the middle, I was journaling all the time and I liked it. So I think just like putting your all into it is super important, and that will make like the biggest difference for you, because this is for yourself and your relationships and your confidence and love, and all of those things can be changed just like with your mindset, like we say. So yeah, I think really just tuning into myself and making sure that like I'm applying the things that we work on to real life situations made the biggest difference.
When did you start noticing your confidence coming back and like your belief in your dream coming back?
Yeah, I think whenever my like mom started to notice and my family was like, okay, she seems like she actually wants to change and she wants to like be a better person. Um, and I started just like being happier in classes and blocking out like negative thoughts in my head, about myself, and just using the activities in real life. Um, I think it just kind of built slowly. And then there was definitely like a week or a couple of days where I was like, oh wait, I'm kind of feeling good. Like this is working. But it was very like different pieces at different times kind of thing. And now it's finally like all together. So I don't really have an exact point that I remember, but definitely in the summer, I was like feeling much better about myself. So yeah.
On my end, one of the things that I noticed changed pretty quickly between you and your mom was like a willingness to work through tough conversations instead of like blowing up and splitting up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So talk
Yeah.
to me about like where your relationship with your mom was and where it was by the end of the program and where it is now. So it's like 3 steps before, after the program, and now almost a year later.
My goodness. Yeah. So before, just super disconnected. Like I didn't feel she was more a dance mom, like my teacher, than my actual mom. So there was kind of no like emotional part to it. Like I've always loved her. I've been very grateful for everything that she's given me. But there was just like as a teenager, we go through so many things and so many changes that like there was such a huge gap in definitely part of that was me not being home, but I think a lot of people can relate to that because like you go to high school all day and then you go to your friends, so like there's a disconnect. And we just were not happy. We couldn't work through anything. It would just be scream, yell at each other. I go to my room, shut my door, and she stays downstairs and watches her show and has some wine. It was just like every single time. So I think during our time together, it definitely took her a little while to, because it was kind of a change really fast. She felt like she kind of was like behind and had to catch up with like how I was approaching her whenever we were about to get in a fight. And like she would stop and say, okay, wow, Summer, like you're handling this really maturely. I feel like I kind of need to catch up. I think she was taken back by me not running upstairs and closing my door.
Mhm.
um, so yeah, I think in the middle, it was definitely still trust issues was a big thing. She still didn't trust me to go out with friends. She still didn't trust me to like go on a sleepover, not be texting me all the time, wondering where I am, or having Life 360 tracker. Um, so that was in the middle. It was kind of up and down a lot. So we would have moments where we would cry, hug it out, work the fight out, and it would be amazing. And then sometimes where I would still be yelling at her, like, why don't you trust me? I've done all this hard work for myself and it's still not good enough for you. But that wasn't the case. It was just her needing to like let go, which was a huge part of our, like the end of our, of us working together. Um, Now our relationship feels so like natural in a way, if that makes sense. I feel like she's more my friend sometimes. I'm comfortable telling her things, or when I have a bad day outside doing Zoom classes all day, I'll come in and be like, I really don't want to go to work. I don't feel good. Like I just had the worst classes. And she'll like show her empathy and gratitude, which used to not happen. She'd be like, suck it up, Summer. Um, so now it just feels it's like a huge brick got lifted off my shoulders. I don't have to worry about things so much, and I don't have any guilt in my actions. So she lets me go to a sleepover. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. Have a good night. The whole trip to Cabo, she didn't text me much. It was more me coming to her than her like, attacking me with, what are you doing? Who are you with? Da, 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 come home right now. So the trust definitely took a while to build, but it's there and it feels so good.
I feel like you're making different decisions for yourself all across the board. So maybe just tell me a little bit about how your decision making has changed before and after.
Yeah, I think before I didn't have like the confidence, I wasn't sure about myself, and I didn't have boundaries for myself. I was just kind of like, yeah, sure, I'll go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was no like we say, hell no or hell yes. Like there was none of that. It was just like spontaneous and really impulsive. Um, so now I actually think about things and what, that reaction could be on the other side or what the end of that looks like, and what's best for me personally, not anybody else. So if my friends are doing something and they're like, hey, come join us, like, come on, come on. The peer pressure thing has been tested a lot. And I think now I'm like, yeah, no, thanks. Like, and that's okay. And if those people don't want to be your friend because of that, that's not your fault. Like it's doing what's best for me. And in the long run, it's gonna pay off like so much. So yeah, being a little bit selfish is okay.
Yeah, and I'm so proud to hear you. It sounds like you were making impulsive decisions and now you're making decisions for your future and for
Yeah,
your present and to earn your trust. And that's
yeah.
amazing. Okay, so talk to me about like your confidence, your body image, and this path towards becoming a ballerina.
Yeah, so I think ballet comes with like a lot of, you're staring at yourself in the mirror all day, so that's not really something that any teenager wants to do at my age. My body went through a lot of changes and I wasn't comfortable with that. I started puberty a lot later than all of my friends. So, their bodies are all adjusted and I'm like hitting this huge change and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, like what's that? So I think that definitely took a toll on my confidence and also me comparing myself to other dancers, and not realizing that everybody has a different body and we're not all going to look the same. So, and just loving myself for who I am. And I also just wasn't feeling myself right. So I would like, restrict certain things because that was going to make me look bad. Um, but then that kind of turned back in the end and I ended up like needing that thing more than ever because I didn't eat cookies, so now I want to eat all the cookies kind of. So now I found the like balance between the two, and it really came from where my mindset was like, that was the root of all of my problems. So I think stop like comparing yourself to other people and just love yourself for who you are, because comparing is just not, it's not fun. It's not going to get you anywhere. um, the second you compare yourself to somebody, it just makes you feel like belittled and not good enough. So I think that's definitely like magnified as a ballet dancer, so you have to work on it like even more. um, Everything has to just be about like doing what's best for you. So, yeah, I think body image is a huge part of like a lot of teenagers, especially today. And it's such a like tippy subject. Some people just don't want to touch on it. They're like, yeah, whatever. But it needs to be talked about like so much because it can change everything. So yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what life is like for you now and just tell me about like how you took what you learned and how that impacts you today, even though you've been out of the program for a long time.
Yeah. And that's funny. I still feel like I'm part of it just because like I can text you sometimes and you still answer and it just, you're still there for me. And I think having a stable relationship with my mom, like now she's there for me too. Um, Taking all of the things, I mean, it sounds big, but you literally changed my life because my mindset was just like so lost. And now that it, is coming together, I feel like I can, a bad situation comes up and I know how to like break it down, do some self-care, take my time to relax, get someone to cover my shift at work, and just like lay down. um, so I think just taking things as they come is really important. It's hard right now because, I'm not living in a different state. I've been at home for longer than I have since I was 15. So that has, challenges and, pros and cons big time. But yeah, I'm on Zoom all the time. Some days it really sucks. I don't want to get up and go to my little garage studio. I don't want to go to work. But it's, you just kind of have to take that first step and just do it. And then at the end of the day, you're proud of yourself for doing it. You're proud of yourself for getting up and going to class and going to work. You're making money. It's okay. So I think just kind of taking it day by day has been my life recently. If things come up that's not, good, I might have a night where I'm crying and my mom comes and gives me a hug and we watch a show. So it's really been self-care, has been my biggest thing. And we can do that. We're all in quarantine, so why not? Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so kind of a big question, but something I think is going to make a big difference to other girls your age is just like, what would you tell them about making a choice to join the program and to work on themselves? Like, what would be just your general advice to other teenage girls who are hurting?
Yeah. Um, do it. No, I'm kidding. um, but just don't be afraid to like share your struggles and your weaknesses because everything really can be solved if it's like, and it's probably more than one thing. It's probably tuned back from when the first comment your mom made about what you were wearing or something like that. It all builds up. It's so many little things. But if you text Jamie, you do the program, you write in your journal, you just all in, even if you're not feeling like the best. You say your happies and crappies, and at the end of that phone call, you will feel better. And if you apply yourself, you just will. So I think just don't be afraid to reach out because there's a lot of people that are going through the same things and we just don't know, even though like, for me, I'm not a normal kid. I'm a ballet dancer and I'm living away from home. Um, but I have so many, that doesn't mean anything really because I have so many similarities to like, I hate to call it normal, but like normal people. um, and it's just like, don't be afraid to use people as your like kind of, what's the word? Backboard, if that makes sense. Like, don't be afraid to lean on people for help. Because eventually you will figure it out for yourself and then you'll be able to apply things that they told you to daily activities in life. So yeah, just don't be afraid to reach out and it'll all be okay.
I honestly think that that's like the message people need the most, right? Like, we're all going to be okay. When you think about your future now that you have all the tools, like what
Mhm.
will be different about your future because of those tools?
Oh goodness, everything. I'll be able to just do what I love to do in positive ways for myself. Like I won't be kind of self-harm stuff, like all of that stuff you don't realize is actually self-sabotage. In the end, it's not going to be like a consistent thing that you won't be able to keep going and be like happy and put your best foot forward if you're not totally like tuned in with yourself. Because there'll be a lot of unresolved problems that are just kind of sitting there and then it gets all bottled up and eventually one day you might, explode. So I think my life especially will be different because I feel comfortable living away from home now and getting on a phone call with my mom telling her, no, today was a really bad day. Like, I'm not okay. Um, because she told me that she would, fly out and come and see me. And she did the same thing for my sister in college. Like, it's a hard time, especially now. We don't really know when things are going to change. So, um, yeah, I think definitely now I just feel comfortable sharing when I'm not okay. and when I do need help, because I can't do it all alone. So yeah, just being able to put my best foot forward, and it's actually going to open like a lot of doors and opportunities for me to be able to like share my story like I'm doing now and try to help people the most I can.
So beautiful. Okay. Anything else that you would want to share? Like open-ended, just anything.
Um, ooh, I think just like set your boundaries and for yourself that are everybody's boundaries are going to be different. So, one person might be okay with certain things and other people aren't. And definitely like find who your true friends are and who are really there for you. I personally only have two, and that's okay. Like, I really don't have any friends, and that's okay. I used to have, groups and considered popular, but I wasn't happy with myself. So like that's not going to go very far. There's honestly so many things that go into like working with you that have helped my life so much and just like changed the way I think about things and myself. So yeah, now I can just be me. So yeah,
Yeah. And who you are is pretty great.
thank you.
Good job, Summer.